Okay, prophecy update. Look forward every week to our prophecy updates. We've been doing these on Sunday morning, setting aside a portion of the service to look at what the Bible says about last days events. We happen to believe that we are living in the last days, which is why we do these prophecy updates. I personally believe that we are very close to the event the Bible calls the rapture of the Church of Jesus Christ. Now, if you've been attending for any length of period of time, you know that we strongly believe, vehemently believe, that the rapture of the church takes place before the 7-year tribulation. I'm going to take it a step further, very dogmatic about it. I believe that not only does the Bible teach that the rapture takes place before the 7-year tribulation, but I believe that the Bible teaches that the rapture has to take place before the 7-year tribulation. Now, why do we say that? There are many events that are foretold in the scriptures that will take place and many prophecies that will be fulfilled in the 7-year tribulation. Now, when you start seeing some of these prophecies begin to be fulfilled, that will be fulfilled in the tribulation, and yet they're being fulfilled now, well, then how close are we? It's like what Jesus said in Luke's gospel. It's recorded, chapter 21, verse 28. When you see these things begin to come to pass, Jesus said, look up and lift up your heads and know that your redemption draweth nigh. Well, usually, typically, weekly, we go to Israel by way of a prophecy update to see what's happening on and what time it is on God's prophetic clock, if you will. But today I'd like to look at a matter that has really presented itself more so recently, and I'd like to draw your attention to not just Israel nationally, but to a crisis globally that seems to get worse by the month. Have you noticed the price of food lately? Listen, we moved to the islands December 7th, happened to be Pearl Harbor Day, 2003. And we have witnessed the increase of prices across the board since we moved here 4.5 almost years ago. We have seen food prices in some cases double. Even the prices of some commodities triple. Just in the last 3.5 years. There was this article from the Dallas Morning News with the headline reading, UN expert, food crisis is a human rights emergency. The UN Human Rights Council should meet urgently to spotlight the global food crisis as a human rights emergency. Food prices on international markets have almost doubled in 3 years. This is not a natural disaster. It's not an earthquake. It's a crisis which is man-made. We know what the causes are, he said. We can act on these causes. The increase in food prices has been very much encouraged and has accelerated due to speculative investments, he said. There are ways to insulate food prices from the risks and the volatility which are the result of these speculative movements of funds. But for this, we need to act as one single community. It's interesting that the Antichrist in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, we're told, will force every man, woman, and child to accept the mark we believe to be a chip implant, a microchip, in the forehand or forehead, without which no man will be able to buy and sell groceries, buy and sell food. So you'll have to take this mark if you want to eat. He will control the world as, quote, one single community. I found this interesting article in MSN. Actually, Martin had emailed it to me. This commentator says, why we're stuck with insane prices. Forget supply and demand. We're now seeing scarcity Economics at work. What happens when buyers fear they won't get what they need at any price? If you think prices have become insane, you're right. But insanity rules markets for everything from oil to rice right now. In fact, insanity is the new normal. Rice recently cracked $1,000 per metric ton. The price of export quality rice is up 173% in a year, even though global rice stocks will finish 2008 about 1 million metric tons higher than at the end of 2007, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Here's what's interesting, and opinions are conflicted. Some say there's no food shortage. It has to do with those who control the world food markets. That's interesting to me. And that seems to concur with what we see in the pages of Holy Writ with respect to prophetic events that will take place in the last days. Another similar article from MSN begs the question, could we really run out of food? Biofuel production, poor harvests, and emerging nations' growing appetites are emptying the world's pantry, sending prices soaring. Experts say the world is now facing down the barrel, of the worst catastrophe of all, famine. The very idea that the modern world could run out of food seems ludicrous. But that is the flip side or cause of the tremendous recent increase in the cost of raw wheat, corn, rice, oats, and soybeans. Wheat futures prices have tripled since 2004. Corn prices have almost tripled since 2005. And soybeans have tripled since 2006. Well, what does this have to do with Bible prophecy? I'm glad you asked. There's a couple of prophecies that we have in the scriptures that talk about how in the last days, not only will there be famines, but that food prices will escalate to quote this MSN commentator, insane and even absurd levels. In Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, John the Revelator, who receives this revelation, describes for us what he sees when in verse 5, the Lamb opened the third seal. He says, I heard the third living creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales. A pair of scales are a picture of commerce, balance to trade, buying and selling, weight per pound, the cost for a commodity. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. How much do you earn in a day? How much is your salary or your hourly pay work out to every day? Well, take that figure, and in the tribulation, this is what it's going to cost. It's going to cost you 1 day's pay to buy a quart of wheat or a quart of barley. Now, understand that in the book of Revelation, you have this divine outline of sorts. There is a chronological order in the book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation, by the way, is the only book in all of the Bible that promises a blessing to those who read it, hear it, and take it to heart. In the first chapter, John is told that everyone who reads the book of this prophecy and not only reads it, but hears it, and not only hears it, but heeds it or takes it to heart, they will be blessed. I believe that's the main reason why Satan doesn't want Christians reading, or non-Christians for that matter, the book of Revelation. You know, when you talk to, Christians, well, the book of Revelation is a hard book to understand. It's so apocalyptic. You know what the word apocalyptic means, or apocalypsos in the original language? It means unveiling. And that's what the book of Revelation is. It's a revelation.